Hey everyone, bet you've noticed how much communities are changing. Like, what even is home these days? We're going to deep dive into that.
Yeah, using some pretty wild sources, blogs, online groups, even a bit of a novel, all pointing to,
Like how home isn't just your address anymore.
right, it's this feeling, this whole support system, even a shared purpose. And we keep seeing this Reiwa City pop up.
Okay, what is that? Some kind of online thing?
Virtual world, yeah, but it exists for like 7 months a year, then poof.
Gone. Like deletes itself.
Back in the day, it was tech limits. Now it's deliberate. They rebuild it each time.
Wild. So is it games or just hanging out?
Kind of both. Virtual festivals, projects people work on together. They even got a virtual university.
Like online courses. Serious stuff.
More like anyone can give a talk, debate current events, even work on stuff together. Lines are blurry, between online and real learning.
Future of education, maybe? All over the world in this one virtual spot.
Could be, who knows? Seems to attract folks who don't fit the usual mold, want to learn differently, connect in new ways.
That reminds me, all this share house stuff popping up in the sources too.
Oh yeah, people making their own communities, almost like chosen family.
Not just roommates, right? Like one source was talking end-of-life planning, building that support outside the typical family.
Super proactive. And it's got to be more than just practicality, right? This deeper need for connection.
Definitely, but housing costs are nuts these days, so there's that side too.
For sure, both are valid. One creator even mentioned their inspiration, their elderly babysitter so full of life, made him rethink aging and community altogether.
Oh, that's sweet, finding inspo in unexpected spots. Like, what does family even mean anymore?
Big question these days. And it's not all warm fuzzies. Some sources are very much about like survival tactics, especially money-wise.
Right, one was a whole guide to living on a shoestring, almost like a community knowledge bank.
But they were cagey about sharing everything, like some secrets are too precious. Makes you think about the power dynamics.
Help others, but gotta protect the valuable info. Tricky balance. Though we do see a lot of, like, positive action too, not just getting by.
Totally. This cool example from Kobe, I mean, Harapatavi, they did this whole event to boost local businesses and tourism.
People dressing up in yukata, right? I saw that.
Yep, got cruise companies, restaurants, even hotels on board giving discounts if you're in Yukata.
So smart. Festa bring in tourists, helps the local spots all at once.
Huge success. City was buzzing, people asking if there was a festival they'd missed, never seen so many in traditional clothes.
Love that. And then there's the Reiwa City Work Center, helping people find jobs. Sounds essential.
Big time. One-on-one help, workshops, even crowdfunded to keep it going shows they're serious about empowering people, contributing to the whole.
Like a whole ecosystem in this virtual city, from money tips to jobs to just hanging out. Makes you wonder if the online stuff influences their real-world actions.
Totally possible. Maybe that virtual world fosters like a can-do spirit that spills over. But then we also see Reiwa City go through crises, even disappear sometimes.
Wait, it just vanishes. Then what?
It comes back, always does, but that idea of disruption being wiped out, it's a recurring theme.
So is that reflecting anxieties about the real world too? Like our future's uncertain, whether it's the economy, climate, whatever?
It's like a microcosm, yeah. One source even talked about Reiwa City existing on a different timeline, almost like a refuge.
So not just escaping, but exploring different ways to live, relate to each other, while the real world's a mess.
Right, and that desire for like a sense of control, hope, it makes these online spaces even more interesting the more unpredictable things get out here.
There was this detail, stuck with me, a virtual festival, ends with them burning a virtual building. What's that about?
Powerful imagery, right? Cleansing, letting go, maybe even acknowledging that nothing lasts forever.
It's all over the sources, actually, that impermanence. Reiwa City being cyclical, online stuff being fragile, even just aging and death.
They're dealing with that head on, both online and offline, finding ways to still create meaning within that.
And to explore that, what better than a story? That excerpt from the novel, set in Reiwa City, really digs into this stuff.
Doesn't shy away from the tough questions either. Our anxieties about the future, what happens after, even if all this matters.
But still hopeful. Like, even with all the change, we can make choices, connect with each other, find meaning.
That comes through strong. Makes you think how much of Reiwa City, this fictional place, is reflecting our own hopes and fears.
And how are we using these new communities to cope, to adapt, maybe even build something better?
Big questions worth asking. And it all circles back to you, the listener. What hits home for you in all this?
What are your hopes, your anxieties about the future?
And how are you finding or making home in all this change? Picking up on that, lots of these sources are big on practical skills, especially money stuff.
Yeah, it's more than just budgeting tips, though. Like a real DIY self-reliance vibe, going back to when communities really had to help each other out.
Totally, and that's where this Reiwa City Survival Strategy Center comes in. Not just handouts, it's about giving people the tools to manage their money, learn new skills, and yeah, support each other.
Like a 21st century barn raising, but instead of a barn, It's financial stability they're building.
Love that analogy. And it's not just theory either. One source talks about someone learning to travel super cheap through this center had these amazing experiences they couldn't have afforded otherwise.
That's what it's all about, real impact. And it goes beyond just individuals, right? Like whole community revitalization, too.
Absolutely. One example that stood out was the Minateko-san thing in Kobe. Community got together, boosted local shops and tourism, had everyone dress up in yukata, explore the city.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Clever way to mix culture and economics.
Seriously, they got cruise companies, restaurants, hotels involved, all giving discounts if you're wearing yukata.
So cool. Festive, brings in the tourists and helps the locals.
It was huge. Area was packed. People thought they'd missed a festival. Never seen so many in traditional clothes.
That's awesome. And then online, you got the Reiwa City Work Center. Sounds like a lifeline for job seekers.
Essential, yeah. One-on-one help, workshops, even did a crowdfunding thing to keep it going. Shows they're committed, helping folks contribute to the community.
It's like they're building this whole system in Reiwa City, from money advice to jobs to just connecting with people. Makes you wonder, does the virtual stuff impact how they act in the real world, too?
Could be. A virtual space might encourage like a collaborative mindset that spills over. But then Reiwa City itself isn't always stable, right? It goes through these crises, sometimes even disappears.
It just vanishes. What happens then?
Always comes back, but that idea of things being disrupted, erased even, it's a constant theme.
Is that mirroring anxieties about the real world, too? Like, our future's uncertain, whether it's the economy, the environment, whatever?
Yeah, like a microcosm. One source even talked about Reiwa City as being on a separate timeline, a kind of refuge from all that.
So it's not just escaping, but like experimenting with different ways to live, connect with each other while things are messy out here.
Exactly. And that desire for some control, some hope, makes these online spaces more appealing the crazier things get in the real world.
There was this one detail that stuck with me. They have this virtual festival, and it ends with them burning a virtual building. What's that all about?
Powerful image, huh? Maybe it's about cleansing, letting go, or even just acknowledging that nothing's permanent.
That impermanence is everywhere in these sources, actually. Reiwa City being cyclical, online stuff being fragile, even just, aging and death.
They're grappling with it, though, both online and off, finding ways to create meaning even within that.
And what better way to explore those themes than a story? That excerpt from the online novel, set in Reiwa City, really dives into all this. That scene where the protagonist has this huge feast, invites both the living and the dead to process grief, celebrate life. It was powerful.
Yeah, like a ritual acknowledging loss, but also emphasizing that the community goes on. Makes you wonder, are these virtual spaces changing how we deal with big emotions?
Grief, joy, all of it. It's like they offer a new way to express ourselves, work through stuff we might not be able to in the real world.
Definitely. And as these virtual spaces become more a part of our lives, how is that going to affect our real communities? Will we be more connected or more isolated?
Big question. Are we using tech to ADD to our real relationships or replace them? Building bridges or creating more divides?
Feels like we're at a turning point, right? We got these amazing tools for connection, but how we use them is what shapes the future of home. And it's not always about the big stuff either. Sometimes it's those small acts of kindness, of connection that really build a community.
Absolutely. Checking in on a neighbor, supporting a local business, just listening to a friend, those little things can have a huge impact.
It's in those moments, those small connections, that we often find the real meaning of home. That feeling of being seen, heard, valued for who we are.
So as we go into the last part of this deep dive, it's less about finding all the answers and more about asking the right questions.
For sure. Be curious, be open to new possibilities, and get involved in shaping the future of home, both for yourself and for everyone else.
And who knows what amazing forms home might take in the years to come. Exciting to think about.
Totally agree. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Hope it's given you some things to ponder, maybe even inspired you to rethink your own relationship with home and community.
Catch you next time. It's wild, right? Real communities, this made-up Reiwa City, they're all kind of saying home isn't what it used to be.
Yeah, not just bricks and mortar anymore. It's more about the feeling you get, the support you've got, even a shared purpose that makes it feel like your place.
And everyone's so proactive, not waiting around for things to get better. They're building the home they want, whether it's online or a whole house with other people.
That's key, right? We're not just along for the ride with all this change. We can shape where we belong.
And that novel set in Reiwa City, that was a whole other level. The city itself is always changing, like a metaphor for how unsteady life feels these days.
But even with that, they still find ways to connect, build traditions, face some heavy stuff together. Remember that scene? Huge feast. The protagonist invites everyone, living and dead, to deal with grief, celebrate life, the whole thing.
Powerful, right? Acknowledging loss, but also the community keeps going. Makes you think, are these online spaces changing how we deal with emotions in general?
Could be. Like they give us a new way to express our things, work through stuff that's hard to in real life.
So as these spaces become more a part of our lives, what does that mean for our real communities? Do they make us closer or further apart?
Tough one. Depends how we use them, right? Are they adding to our real relationships or taking their place, building bridges or making the gap bigger?
Feels like we're at this crossroads, got these amazing tools to connect, but how we actually use them determines what home even means in the future.
It's not always about the big picture, though. Sometimes it's the little things, everyday kindness, that really builds a community.
For sure, checking on your neighbor, supporting local places, even just listening to a friend, those add up.
Totally. And in those moments, those little connections, that's where we find that real home feeling. Being seen, heard, valued for who you are.
So wrapping up this deep dive, it's less about figuring everything out and more about asking the right questions.
Absolutely. Be curious, open to new possibilities, and get involved in shaping what home becomes for yourself and everyone else.
Who knows what amazing things we'll come up with. It's kind of exciting to think about.
Definitely is. Thanks for coming along in this deep dive, everyone. Hope it gave you something to think about, maybe even inspired you to see home and community in a new light.
And that's a wrap for us. See you on the next one.